Nothing starts the day better than an egg or two. We eat over 10 billion a year. But eggs don't just go into things like your cakes and pastries. They can also go into things like soups and curries. But how do we know if our eggs are safe? Well, it basically all boils down to this, the lion mark. It's a sign that the egg has come from a British lion farm. And as food fighters have been finding out, the farms have to undergo some seriously rigorous vetting.
Today, Lion Farm Inspector Malcolm Hassel is in North Yorkshire, deciding if this egg farm in Bedale is up to scratch. If he finds anything wrong, he can withdraw the Lion Mark stamp, which could spell the end of farmer Chris Tarrant's egg business. But Malcolm's first priority is the girls.
I'm looking at the state of the birds, how they're behaving. They're ranging well, they're right across as far as you can see. There's plenty of shelter for them. There's a good fence around it. You're with free range, so you've always got a potential problem with foxes. And I'm looking to make sure the birds are as protected as they can be in this sort of environment. And these birds are absolutely fine.
On the outside, everything's well in order, but it's what's on the inside that really counts. Malcolm needs to take a look at the hen house. It's where the birds wander in to shelter and lay their eggs. And it's one of the most important parts of the inspection.
When I come into a shed, I'm looking at a number of things. Obviously, the welfare of the birds is one of the most paramount, because stress can affect the way they behave. It can affect their eggs. A stressed bird is more prone to disease. You know, a happy hen lays lots of eggs. And quality eggs as well. And quality eggs as well, yeah. So you're very interested in the behaviour of the birds. You're listening to them. It tells me that Chris is doing a good job in keeping his birds content and happy.
Here come the girls.
Come on, girls.
Here come the girls.
British eggs are among the safest in the world, and that's not just down to happy hens. There are strict rules about how they're kept.
This is the scratch area where the birds, as you can see, are wandering around, scratching, pecking, dust bathing. The centre section that you can see down the middle is a row of nest boxes. The birds go in there to lay their eggs, and they lay their eggs onto a mat. That mat effectively rolls down onto a conveyor belt, and the reason for that is you want to try and keep as much of the muck and litter that's around in the shed, you want to keep that off the eggs, so the eggs are laying onto a clean surface.
And this is where they pop out to be collected. But it's a tense time. Chris knows if Malcolm spots anything wrong, there'll be serious consequences.
It's quite a nerve-wracking thing to go through, to make sure that everything's right and everything's in place and the inspection goes well. Because at the stroke of a pen, someone can actually stop us selling our eggs at the status or level they are. And that, to me, is no good, because it's the revenue stops coming in day one. If the revenue stops coming in day one, it's goodbye farm.
Everything's gone well so far. But in the scratching shed, Malcolm's moving on to one of the most critical parts of the inspection.
One of the prime drivers and one of the things we look for is to make sure that salmonella is kept out of the environment. It's very important that any consumer feels safe and eggs are a reliable product.
Salmonella is the egg's deadliest enemy. It's a nasty bacteria that's found in eggs, poultry and meat. It attacks the stomach and intestines, causing diarrhoea, vomiting and fever. It's a very common cause of food poisoning. All lion chickens are vaccinated against salmonella, but Malcolm still needs to carry out spot checks to make sure the birds aren't infected. So he dons some special foot swabs and sets about collecting samples.
All right, go steady.
Careful not to scare the hens, he uses his feet to pick muck up off the floor.
All right, girls.
It's all rather bizarre, but it definitely does the job.
Right, that's the sample all sealed up and ready to go. And basically, I'll post that on my way home tonight.
If the tests come back positive, the farm's eggs may have to be taken off the market. But it'll be another 3 days before the results come through.
Right, what have we got in here? Temperature records?
Yes.
Even at this stage, the eggs are still vulnerable, so they must be stored correctly.
It's important we look at temperature, a number of reasons. There's no requirement to actually chill the eggs, and the idea is you have to keep it between a temperature range, ideally 16-18 degrees centigrade. If you go too cold, you get condensation, which can allow microorganisms to actually get inside the egg. So sweating, as it's called, is a bad thing for eggs. So it tends to be you want a steady temperature rather than too high or too low.
No sweaty eggs here. In fact, the temperature's exactly right. Happy that he's seen everything, Malcolm and Chris head back to the office. And it's time to find out the verdict.
Basically, Chris, no problems. I've not found anything that worries me, and that's us done. And the next time I see you will be to do your salmonella sample next year. That'll be it.
So it's not just the hens that are happy. Chris can breathe a sigh of relief. But it could have been a different story.
There are parts of the code that if I hadn't been happy with, it would have been perfectly within my remit to suspend Chris, and that would meant he couldn't have put his eggs into the food chain until that was put right. And in some cases, that's highly necessary, because at the end of the day, the line code is all about ensuring that people can be confident that when they eat line code eggs, they are perfectly safe.
And 2 weeks later, the good news continued, as lab tests confirmed the farm was salmonella free. Still to come, I go airside